Good evening. Call to order the meeting for the Salem Housing Authority for Monday, June 24th, 2024. Would the recorder please call the roll?
Commissioner Nishioka?
Here.
Vice Chair Phillips?
Here.
Commissioner Gwynn?
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez? Absent. Commissioner Hoy?
Here.
Commissioner Nordyke? Absent. Commissioner Varney?
Here.
Resident Commissioner Villegas?
Here.
Chair Stapleton?
Here. Thank you so much. All right. Commissioner Nishioka, would you lead the room in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you. All right. Vice Chair Phillips, are there any additions or deletions?
Not tonight.
Thank you. And we have nobody signed up for public comment. Vice Chair, the consent calendar?
I move tonight's consent calendar.
I'll second that.
All righty, moved by Phillips, seconded by Nishioka. All right, to your motion.
Yeah, tonight's consent calendar consists of 3.1A, the May 28th, 2024 draft Salem Housing Authority minutes, 3.3A, which is a participation in U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development demolition and deposition program. And that concludes tonight's consent calendar agenda.
Great, thank you so much. And I'm actually going to ask Nicole, could you speak about item 3.3A just for the public so they understand what's going on with that?
Sure. I'm Nicole Utes. I'm the Housing Administrator for Salem Housing Authority, and I actually have Jessica Blakely, who is the one that is working with HUD on this project, so I'll let her speak to it.
Hello, I'm Jessica Blakely. I'm the Director of Development and Strategy for the Salem Housing Authority. This resolution in front of you all today is basically to approve us to submit our application to HUD for the removal of Shelton Village, which is a 28-unit building in our public housing portfolio. It's 50 years old and it needs a lot of rehabilitation. Under HUD standard, they have a threshold for which we can spend on rehabilitation versus having to consider the building obsolete, and then we can choose what we want to do with it next. So for this particular building, it's beyond the threshold of what HUD will allow for us to spend as far as rehabilitation. With the inflation costs, the total development costs is over 100% of what they'll allow, and HUD's threshold is 57%. So if the cost to rehabilitate is that percentage or more, they do consider the building obsolete, and they ask that we participate in this program, and that really allows for it to either be sold on the fair market. The tenants are all protected. They get a voucher, which is called a tenant protection voucher, and we assist them with relocation in the area. We've met with the families in 2019, 2023, and then again, we'll be meeting with them very soon. And they are in favor of this move. They feel like the location of the building is not in the best neighborhood in Salem. They would like to take a voucher and move elsewhere to be more self-sufficient and to be more successful towards self-sufficiency. So this is the last step, your approval in moving forward to process that application with HUD, hopefully sending it in July. It takes about 90 days to get an answer, and once we get an answer, we'd start working with the families right away to get them where they would like to be.
Great. All right, any questions? Yes, Commissioner.
Is this Lee Street and 25th? It says Northeast Salem, but I think it's Southeast, isn't it?
I do apologize. That is Southeast.
Good catch. All right, any other questions? All right, would the recorder please call the roll?
Commissioner Hoy?
Aye.
Commissioner Nordyke absent. Commissioner Varney?
Aye.
Commissioner Nishioka?
Aye.
Vice Chair Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Gwynn?
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez absent. Resident Commissioner Villegas?
Aye.
Chair Stapleton?
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. Alrighty, we have no public hearings tonight or special orders of business, but we do have our project management report, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to you and have you give us an update on what's going on.
Thank you. Again, I'm Nicole Yates. I'm the housing administrator. I do hope that you enjoyed the program management report tonight. Thank you for taking the survey. Our communications, Sarah Murray, has really looked into those survey results and trying to make sure that she's catering our reports to fill you with better information about what the Housing Authority is completing. So some highlights from tonight, or this report, is that we are doing a landlord symposium. It'll be at the Salem Library at Locke's Auditorium on June 28th from 10 to noon. This will include Salem Housing Authority, Marion County Housing Authority, and West Valley Housing Authority. This will give an opportunity for questions and answers, and if you're anybody who's interested in becoming a landlord for the housing authorities, we'll talk about best practices, what we do as each agencies, and how we can better help and collaborate to get more people in housing. On August 13th, SHA will be having our second recourse event. This will include over 15 providers that have already signed up to help us. It'll be an outreach collaboration event at Wallace Marine Park. Our intended goal is to try to help connect individuals with services. And then on July 22nd, we will collaborate with Boys and Girls Club with our one of our favorite events, the Back to School program. They will be filling about 500 bags of school supplies to hand out to children. We wanted to let you all know that our landlord portal is up and activated, and landlords are now able to access that. That is a part of our software conversion, and we're hitting an exciting milestone that we're getting closer to completing this conversion. Our finance team is currently going through an extensive training, and we're getting much closer to being through this pretty much year-long process of converting our software. And we do still appreciate everybody's patience with us as we go through this. In the last month, we've made 5 new hires at the Housing Authority. We're very excited to bring on a mechanic, a lead mechanic, an accountant, and we also have brought on an office assistant, staff assistant, so we're starting to really fill all the positions. I can tell you we have a staff assistant position open, and we had to do 2 days worth of 18 interviews. So we do have a lot of new interest in coming to the Housing Authority, and that is really picking back up, and we're excited to get all these positions filled. We did make 2 offers to property managers, so we're excited to be bringing 2 more property managers on in July. So we're slowly getting all the additional help that is needed at the Housing Authority. And we're excited because we will be holding our annual barbecue for our Salem Housing Authority employees as part of our wellness program on July 31st, and National Night Out on August 6th. And if anybody's interested, please let us know. We do throw a neighborhood party at Parkway Apartments, and it's quite an event, and everybody enjoys partaking in that. So the only other news that I wanted to make sure that everybody is aware of is that we are in what is called a shortfall year with HUD, meaning that our voucher issuance has stopped this year. We're not authorized to issue any more vouchers. We have exceeded the amount of funding for the amount of vouchers that we have currently. Every housing authority pretty much across the state of Oregon is in the same position due to the rents rising. We have gone through this before. This actually typically helps HUD determine and right-size the amount of funding we receive. We're very thankful that we're using every dollar at the Housing Authority and getting it out there. But until we go through what is called a shortfall program for the next several months, we will not be able to issue any more vouchers off of our waiting list without HUD's approval. So there will be a time where you will hear that we do not have vouchers to issue at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
So it looks like there's like over 50 vacancies. So is that why there's so many vacancies? Because there's no money for vouchers?
Yes, exactly. So we've already exceeded the amount of dollars. So we may show that this is what HUD says we should be able to fill with that funding. This is what Reality of Rents is creating.
I'm just looking at vacancies, and over 70 with Sequoia Crossing. So yeah, that's a lot.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Sequoia Crossings is completely filled.
Okay, okay. I'm looking at this sheet and it says 20 vacant unit statuses
And that's about a month behind in statistics on the property management side.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, Commissioner Nishioka.
Thank you. Nicole, does this mean that those people that are using the vouchers won't have them and they're in, or this is for new vouchers?
This is for new vouchers
Thank you.
and hopefully to prevent from anybody who is currently housed happening to have vouchers returned back. So this is a good thing. We're trying to stabilize everybody who currently has a voucher and make sure that we have the appropriate funding for everything that's currently out there. It just means that we're stabilizing out for the rest of this year to make sure that every ounce of the dollars that we've received, so every voucher dollar that we have has been utilized at this point.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? I don't see, yes.
This is not a question. I simply want to say thank you very much for the staff that are doing these reports on individual clients. They're very humanistic, and I think that this is helpful to think about the people behind the housing that is being provided. So I just want to say again that I'm really appreciative of these reports that are made, and it just fills my heart with joy that there's people helping those that are needing it. So thank you.
Yes, and we do have each department trying to get our staff involved, and they really enjoy telling their story. They've never had that opportunity, so.
Yes, Commissioner Gwen.
I'm so sorry. So the landlord symposium that's coming up later this week, are there still available openings for that, or is it too late for people to sign up?
No, please sign up.
Perfect.
We're having it at Laux to accommodate, so.
Awesome, thank you.
All right. Okay, seeing no other hands raised, we have no other business, so we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll call to order this meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency for the City of Salem for Monday, June 24th. If the recorder will please call the roll.
Board Member Stapleton?
I'm here.
Board Member Nishioka?
Here?
Board Member Phillips?
Here.
Board Member Gwynn?
Here.
Board Member Gonzalez? Absent. Board Member Hoy? Board Member Nordike is absent. Board Member Varney?
Here.
Chair Hoy?
Here. All right. Councilor Stapleton, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Not this one, no.
All right. We have nobody signed up for public comment. So Councilor Stapleton, the consent calendar.
Thank you. I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion by Stapleton, second by somebody, but I didn't catch who. Barney.
All right, tonight the consent calendar consists of item 3.1A, which is the June 10th, 2024 draft Urban Renewal Agency minutes. Item 3.2A, the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Salem budget. And that concludes the consent calendar.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Board Member Gwynn?
Aye.
Board Member Gonzalez absent. Board Member Hoy?
Aye.
Board Member Nordike absent. Board Member Varney?
Aye.
Board Member Stapleton?
Aye.
Board Member Nishioka?
Aye.
Board Member Phillips?
Aye.
Chair Hoy?
Aye, motion passes. All right, we have no public hearings, no special orders of business. We do have an information report. Do we have any questions on item 6A? All right, seeing no hands and no further business, we are adjourned. Call to order this meeting of the Salem City Council for Monday, June 24th, 2024. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Stapleton?
Here.
Councilor Nishioka?
I'm still here.
Councilor Phillips?
Here.
Councilor Gwynn?
Here.
Councilor Gonzalez absent. Councilor Hoy? Councilor Hoy?
Here.
Councilor Nordike absent. Councilor Varney?
Here.
Mayor Hoy?
Here. All right. Councilor Stapleton, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Yes, I move approval of the additions to the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Stapleton, second by Nishioka. Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you. Yes, we had an addition to our agenda, a motion from Councilor Nishioka regarding the support for United Way cottages. And so we're adding that. And then we also have the same motion has been revised. And so we have a motion and a revision to the same motion.
Is there any discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Nordike absent. Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez absent. Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right. We are now on to council and city manager comment. Do we have any? Councilor Gwynn.
So I had the pleasure, after being invited by Rob from Parks, to go to a ribbon cutting for the new play structure at Reese Hill Park. We had a great turnout. Staff did a wonderful job hosting that, and I wanted to say to Rob, thank you to city staff for taking the lead on the installation of the equipment that saved the city a ton of money. So it was an awesome event, so thanks for the invitation.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Stapleton.
Thank you so much. I wanted to highlight, so I was at an event in Portland on Saturday, and I happened to be there with a bunch of other electeds and folks who are running for office. And one of the current city councilors for Portland, who's currently running for mayor of Portland, came up to me and he said, "Congratulations on Salem being ranked better than Portland." And I hadn't gotten Keith's email yet. And so I was like, of course, yes. I don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, I went home, got my emails, and saw the amazing news that Salem is ranked 41 nationally, one of the best run cities in America. So I'll just use a quote from the report. It says, "The best run cities in America use their budgets most effectively to provide high quality financial security, education, health, safety, and transportation to their residents. Many of the top cities also have a very low amount of outstanding government debt per capita, which can prevent financial troubles in the future." So again, Salem ranked as the best run city in Oregon with an overall score of 41 nationally, followed by Portland with a national score of 81. So yes. I have had the privilege for almost 4 years now to work with the staff here at the City of Salem and to see this in action. And it is just such a privilege to be here, to be a resident here, and to know the amount of care and professionalism that the staff at the City of Salem put in to make our community so wonderful. And I think sometimes that gets overlooked by, flash in the pan, high emotion, just frustrations with the current state of maybe a person's life, or with community, just the struggles that we've all been through, especially over the last 5 years or so. And I love that this comes out and it just clarifies everything. Because these are folks who are not partial, they are outside of the city, they are looking in and they are looking at the skill, the talent, and really the professionalism that drives the city. And they are acknowledging really the great work that's done here. So I wanted to say thank you to Keith, to the leadership team, to every single employee who works here. It truly is an amazing place to be, and I'm very, very proud to be a counselor here, and I feel very blessed to be a resident of Salem. So thank you so much for all your hard work. It's proved right here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you for your great words. I want to co-sign on everything you just said. That was awesome. So thank you. Are there any other councilor comments or city managers? The city manager would like to say something.
Thank you for those kind words. None of that would happen without City Council's involvement. Your care in regards to our financial situation is extremely important, and we spend a lot of time on it. I would say our council is well informed about our bond rating. Josh does an excellent job with the Finance Committee and with council in keeping you apprised as to what the impacts on bond rating is, and we've done an excellent job, even under some very trying financial circumstances, to maintain our bond rating. So thank you to all of you. I know not every one of you gets a chance to read my weekly report in detail every week. So I wanted to share a couple highlights with you as I'm rolling through this. And I'm not looking at you, Mr. Mayor, at all. I just wanted...
I make it through the first 30 pages every time. Every time. Beyond that, I can't guarantee.
All right, I'm only going to do the first 5 then.
All right.
This week, we are having the last Revenue Task Force meeting, and there are a couple of the task force members, hey, Becky, and I'm sorry, Ariel, thank you for being here this evening. I'm sure you're here to just soak it all in. This week, you'll finish your work, and ultimately that will be handed off to City Council at a work session in July. So again, thank you to the task force for all of their work. Just a couple of other highlights. We issued 51 transient occupancy tax grants on June 10th. Thank you, City Council. Those we'll start signing papers for those and getting that money out into the community. On this Friday, we hosted a successful Make Music on Peace Plaza, but Make Music Day. And I went downtown for lunch on Friday, and it was jamming. And no pun intended. And then I also wanted to notice the library does this fantastic thing. I was reading the report and I was like, oh my, you can actually check out a Northwest Forest Pass from the library. And as a proud holder of an America Beautiful Pass, one of the great things about being 62 years old, it's lifetime now. I have an America Beautiful Pass, but anybody in the city can check out one of 10 Northwest Forest Passes and avail yourselves of the wonders of our natural world right here in Oregon. And then last but not least, I wanted to also notice the Reese Hill Park improvements, fantastic improvements. I'm not sure if those are bond funded or not. They're not? General fund. But fantastic improvements, and it looked fantastic, and I see Councilor Gwen there, so in my photo. So, way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments? I don't know if I've ever seen our city manager that animated before. That was impressive. All right. Okay, we will move on then. We have no proclamations tonight. Write that down. No proclamations tonight. So it's time for public comments. As a reminder, we'll invite you up to the podium, hit the button to make sure that the green light comes on, introduce yourself with your name and then either your address or your ward, and then you have 3 minutes to address the council. And when the yellow light starts flashing, that means you have a minute left. When the red light comes on, that means your time is up. And we will start with Maureen McGee. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Thank you very much. Mayor Hoy and members of City Council, my name is Maureen McGee. I am a resident of Ward 2, and I am also the president of the Mission Street Parks Conservancy. I am testifying today on behalf of the Parks Conservancy Board on item 5A on your agenda. It's the proposed amendment and restatement of the agreement for use of John Lewis Field and Bush's Pasture Park. Our board requests one important modification to that proposal, if possible, prior to any approval of the proposed restatement. We are specifically asking that section E6 be modified to clarify that the required annual review of impacts must include a review of pedestrian traffic impacts on the park. The mission of the Mission Street Parks Conservancy is to preserve, maintain, enhance, and interpret the iconic public landscapes on and near Mission Street for current and future generations. We provide thousands of volunteer hours of community service annually within Bush's Pasture Park, and we played a very significant role in the development of the cultural landscape management plan for that park. We really greatly appreciate the many important concerns and questions about this proposed restatement that have been raised by our own volunteers, by the members of the South Central Association of Neighbors, or SCAN, by the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, SPRAB, and other interested stakeholders. And we also appreciate the work that has been done by Willamette University's Salem Baseball in the City to address those concerns and questions. We particularly appreciate and endorse SPRAB's recommendation from their June 13th meeting for an annual review of impacts on park property to address any concerns around the expanded use of John Lewis Field and the requirement to amend that restated agreement if necessary to address whatever impacts are identified on an annual basis. And we want to thank the interested parties for integrating those requirements into Section E6 of the restated agreement. However, as stewards of the park, we believe that Section E6 should just go one step further, and that's to specify that that annual impact review includes a review of pedestrian impacts. And here's why. The contemplated enhancements to John Lewis Field that are supported by the agreement are likely to have concentrated impacts on 3 specific designated areas of the park that are identified in the Cultural Landscape Management Plan. Area 11A is the Oak, Savannah, Remnant, and Camas fields that are east of John Lewis Field. Those are identified in the Cultural Landscape Management Plan as being under significant threat from foot traffic. Area 11B, which is the oak expansion area that is south of John Lewis Field, includes young planted oak trees that the CMLP identifies as being, again, in special need of protection from pedestrians. And finally, Area 11B, which is the oak woodland restoration area southwest of the field, includes a wildflower.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Thank you. Again, we request that Section E6 be revised to include pedestrian impacts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I actually have a question before you leave.
Yes, absolutely.
So I just want to make sure that I understand your request, and you're saying you'd like us to revise Section E6 to require the annual review include a pedestrian impact on the park. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. And I did submit written comments as well that have the exact language that we were proposing in them, if you'd like to review that. But yes, it's E6. Right now it says shall include impacts such as parking, noise, and lighting. And we'd like that to be revised to read including but not limited to parking, noise, pedestrian traffic, and lighting. We feel that that would give stronger direction to the interested parties and ensure protection of the park.
Thank you. I have one more question. Did you propose this to SPRAB or to at other times and it was rejected, or is it something that wasn't considered before until tonight?
This is a new request. The addition of E6 in the proposed agreement was an addition that was made at the direction of SPRAB. So this is our first opportunity to comment directly on this language.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, Rob Passage. You can go to this one. They both work.
Cool. And I'm off. Good evening, Mayor Hoy, members of City Council. My name is Rob Passage. I'm a resident of Ward 7. I'm here today to speak in favor of the agreement between Willamette University and the City of Salem. In my role as the Director of Athletics at Willamette University, I will be one of the main people responsible for ensuring this agreement is fully executed and the expectations are met. I would like to begin my time by saying thank you to the members of City Council for your time in considering this agreement today. I've learned many things during this process the past few years, one of them being y'all don't get paid for this. That makes me appreciate even more the time you've invested in walking the park, talking with folks both for and against this project, and reading all the information that has come your way. I would also like to thank City Attorney Dan Atchison for his time in helping craft this updated document, along with Deputy City Manager Scott Archer, Parks Planning Manager Rob Romanek, and countless other City and Parks Department staff for their efforts in ensuring that we are compliant with all of the necessary processes for this project to move forward. I would also thank members of the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for their careful consideration of this agreement last week and their thoughtful suggestions of several amendments, all of which we're able to incorporate into the document that was presented for your review today. I would also like to thank the residents of the surrounding neighborhood and others who care for and about Bush Park for taking the time to ask thoughtful questions, walk the park with us, and continue to engage in conversations about this project. We are very excited about the opportunity to improve the Willamette University baseball and softball fields, not only for the obvious impact on our own student athletes, but for the positive impact we believe it can have on the folks in our community. I will end my remarks there, knowing I may be asked questions now or possibly again in the future during deliberations.
Thank you. I actually do have a question for you.
Yep.
Did you hear the previous speaker's suggestion on an amendment?
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's fantastic.
Okay, so you don't have any.
I don't see any. I mean, I don't officially speak for others in our university, but it's in line with our conversations around what Sprab suggested. I think it makes perfect sense.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Next up is Joan Stembridge.
Hello, my name is Joan Stembridge, and I am a Ward 2 member. And all those who oppose turning Bush Park into a private commercial baseball venue, please stand. We are just a few of the 139 people who have signed this testimony. The request to expand Willamette University further into Bush Park is solely to enable a commercial baseball business to move into Bush Park, likely forcing out many local families and individuals from enjoying the park, creating enormous traffic congestion during evening hours, likely violating city zoning of the park, without tribal or Gaiety Hill neighborhood formal approval, clearly violating the overall management guidelines of the Cultural Landscape Management Plan, most assuredly violating the intent of the deed from the Bush family, ignoring that there is a commercial stadium available, Volcanoes, ignoring the possibility of upgrading Chemeketa Community College Field, which both have ample parking. We and all of these people ask you to please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy, members of council. I'm Evan West, resident of Ward 7. On Saturday, I attended a baseball game at the Volcano Stadium. I had a great time and I plan to go again, but I would not go to a commercial baseball game in Bush Park, even though it's dramatically closer to me. Let me tell you why. Getting to Volcano Stadium via I-5 was simple, and paid parking exclusive to the stadium was affordable and ample. Fireworks throughout the event bothered no one in the surrounding shopping center. The existing regional baseball facility is objectively better than one in Bush's Pasture Park could ever hope to be. The Saturday night baseball attendance at Volcano Stadium was Spartan. I counted fewer than 100 total attendees. This fact should be enough to dissuade anyone from believing that yet another commercial baseball enterprise is a viable business endeavor in Salem, to say nothing of how bogus a claim is that a new sports team would bring support to Salem tourism industries. However, even if we were to proceed with the belief that another baseball team has a chance of being more successful, the Volcano Stadium is the place for that experiment. The Volcano Stadium owner has confirmed that a new baseball team could play there for $1 per ticket fee. This is apparently still too much for Salem Baseball LLC, which has set its sights on Bush Park because it is free to them. This has been confirmed in the limited public interaction that has happened in the more than 2 years that this sale of public land has been orchestrated in secrecy behind the scenes with city staff, purposefully excluding public engagement. Bush Park is a pristine environment because of the many dozens of volunteers who work tirelessly to preserve its historic natural character. Neither Salem Baseball nor Willamette University have committed to providing for trash removal, safety and security, parking attendance, or repair to damage done to natural areas. The City of Salem will be left with the bill for these responsibilities. Given our persistent budget crisis, these responsibilities will be further passed along to volunteers. Salem Baseball will profit, assuming paid attendance does happen, and our public park and volunteers will suffer if City Council approves an expanded easement of the Willamette University facilities. I ask this council to remember that, as it has stated previously, it takes tremendous privilege for citizens to appear here and make statements in person. Because of this, I hope you will give weight to the more than 100 citizens who have signed the petition asking that the Willamette easement not be expanded. The good news is this: there is an easy solution before you today. City Council can and should endorse the use of Willamette University facilities by nonprofit youth sports, including the Salem Keizer School District. If Willamette University wanted to open their fields for this purpose, they could do so tomorrow without any expansion of their easement within Bush Park. This is a win-win-win for everyone. No one here is anti-baseball. No one here is anti-business. City Council is elected by the people, and the people from across our city today are asking one thing clearly: please protect our parks and open spaces by affirming that they are for the free use and enjoyment of people from across our regional community, and the parks are not available for private enterprise to profit from. Thank you.
Oops, thanks. Good evening, Mayor Hoy and city councilors. My name is Laura Tiffin. I'm the coordinator of athletics and activities for Salem Keizer School District, which extends through all of the wards represented here. And I myself am a resident of Ward 1. I am here to let you know that the prospect of any turf, baseball, and softball fields in the Salem Keizer area is really exciting to us, and the prospect of free access to turf fields at Willamette's baseball and softball fields for 10 years is incredibly exciting to us. I very much appreciate Willamette's collaboration with Salem Keizer from the very beginning of the talks of this project, as we do not have any turf, baseball, nor softball fields in the Salem Keizer School District. So this opportunity seems like a great one for the youth in our community. We foresee, if this project were to go through, that our Salem Keizer High School teams would use the baseball and softball turf fields on nearly a daily basis during the rainy spring season. So we very much appreciate Willamette's inclusion of Salem Keizer in this project and in the conversations, and appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I got it. Nadine, and if you could help me with your last name, I would really appreciate it. Hit that button. There you go.
Nadine Lecheminot.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to comment. I'm from Ward 2, and I live near the park, and I've noticed that on most summer evenings there are, in the upper south area of the park near LaFelle, there are large gatherings, primarily Hispanic families. There's piñatas and music and laughing and lots of little kids running around and having a great time. The upper playground near Bush Art Barn is also used extensively by Hispanic families, as is the lower playground. That lower playground also, it has a lot of use by refugee families, particularly from the Middle East. Most of Salem's green space and parks are located in the wealthier areas of our city. Bush Park has become a refuge for families of color and for families who really need free places for entertainment for their kids. When families plan large gatherings in Bush Park, they do need adjacent parking in order to make their gatherings work. If parking is monopolized by a commercial venture, these families are essentially locked out of the public park. They use the park in the evening during the summer hours when the temperatures are cooler, so during the same time as the baseball games. I fear that this proposed commercial venture will dominate park usage because of inadequate parking. If you do go ahead with this proposal, I'm opposed to it, but if you do go ahead, I would like to make 2 strong recommendations. One, that the parking at the Bush House Museum and the upper and lower playgrounds and the LaFell Street access, that be reserved for normal park users, and that signs should clearly say no stadium parking and areas should be monitored. Those areas should be reserved for families and for all of the kids that play ad hoc games in that lower field and for the softball players. 2, the perimeter fencing should be installed at the south end of the baseball stadium. And I'm not sure where that is now, but it absolutely needs to be there so that the traffic flows north as it's coming in and going out of the park. Our first speaker talked about foot traffic and how that might damage the fragile park landscape. That would alleviate a lot of the problem. And it would also encourage all of that foot traffic to go north towards Willamette University and their parking. And so that our park doesn't become dominated by one single user. It would also keep trash contained to a more specific area. And when our city budget, we're struggling so much to get park staff and with our, all of the volunteers that clean this park and that take care of the park, it would help to have the trash contained to one area.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I do have the recommendations if you would like to.
Next up is Laurel Hines.
Thank you. My name is Laurel Hines, and I don't live close to the park, but I use the park often. And one of the main things I wanted to be sure to say is that if people could yell out something from the grave, I really believe that Mr. Bush, who gave the park to the city, would be yelling, "No, not in my Pasture Park, not with commercial baseball, not with beer concessions." That wasn't the intent. From my understand, his intent to give it to the city or let the city use it was for a natural area and playgrounds. How is a commercial baseball with that's going to trample the camas lilies and the young oak trees and the other natural vegetation, chase out the raptors, the owl that has become famously known in the park, and chase away the gray squirrels, the bigger lights? Hopefully there won't be fireworks if this gets approved, because then you won't have any wildlife left there, and the birds that people go there look at are going to be gone. So sorry I sound excited, but I think Bush Park is our central park in Salem, and it is used by people that live downtown, and I think there are much better places for a commercial stadium. And for those who think that people are going to be riding bikes and shuttles and not parking in the areas that refugee families and other less fortunate families may use for the park, they're dreaming. This is Salem. People use cars. It would be nice if they use shuttles, but the Bush Barn Art Fair has moved for a reason so that wildlife and vegetation isn't disturbed. So now you're considering a plan that is going to create more damage to the park, and I just think it's atrocious. So sorry to be so emotional about it, but it's something I feel strongly about.
Thank you for your testimony. I normally don't respond to public comment because everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I'm not sure that invoking what Mr. Bush may have said would, if I understand the history of Mr. Bush, I'm sure he'd have a lot to say about the people who use the park. None of it good. So the history isn't great with him. So anyway, that doesn't take away from anything else she said. All right, that concludes our public comment. And with that, we are now on to the consent calendar. Who are you? Oh, Daniels. I read off Catherine Davis earlier. Come on up. You're fine. Sorry, I couldn't read your handwriting. I said Davis a couple times and nobody came up. All right, I can see where that might say Daniels. But it really looks like Davis.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Catherine Daniels. I'm a resident of the Bush Park neighborhood and a retired land use planner. As a planner, I'm wary of NIMBY arguments against proposals as a general rule, as I think that neighbors should be prepared to give a little for the general and larger benefit of the community. You may feel that a large part of what you're hearing tonight reflects NIMBY concerns, but I think that the proposed project actually poses a number of legitimate concerns. It's a rather complex issue, a few of which I want to touch on tonight. Two questions stand out in particular to me. One is, will the project displace current users? And I have to agree with a previous speaker here tonight. I think it definitely would. There's a large number of Hispanic groups of people who use the park, the south end of the park, on a daily basis. And a large proportion of residents in the northeast Salem area that is grossly underserved by parks are Hispanic members, and I feel that those people are going to be squeezed out for lack of sufficient parking. The second key question that stands out to me is the project consistent with existing city policy? And from what I understand, it appears not to be consistent with the Bush Park plan or the wishes of the Bush family. And I think it's imperative that any proposed city project be found to be consistent with existing city policy before it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes public comment. Councilor Stapleton, the consent calendar.
I move approval of the consent calendar with one exception, item 3.2D, pulled by Councilor Hoy.
Second.
Motion by Stapleton, second by Phillips. Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you. The consent calendar tonight consists of items 3.1A, the June 10th, 2024 draft city council minutes. Item 3.2A, the internal borrowing from the city's utility fund to the general fund to pay for the portion of the Public Works Operations building occupied by Parks staff. Item 3.2B, the transfer of fiscal year 2024 budget appropriations in the general fund, the Streetlights Fund, and the City's Services Fund. Item 3.2C, the adoption of fiscal year 2025 parking district budget and setting the parking tax rate for the downtown parking district. Item 3.3A, the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2025 through fiscal year 2029. And item 3.3B, the renewal of intergovernmental agreement between the city and West Valley Housing Authority. And that concludes the consent calendar.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there further discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Varney?
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton?
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka?
Aye.
Councilor Phillips?
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn?
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilor Hoy?
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke absent. Mayor Hoy?
Aye. Motion passes. All right, we are now on to public hearings. So item 4A on our supplemental budget.
The Salem City Council will now hold a public hearing to receive testimony pertaining to Supplemental Budget 3 for unanticipated city expenses in the Emergency Services Fund. The hearing will begin with the staff presentation. Individuals testifying are limited to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see we have Callie Leinenbach from the Budget Office there at the podium. Be sure and hit that button so the green light comes on, and we will open the public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Callie Leinenbach, and I'm the Budget Manager with the city. And I have a few brief slides this evening to walk you through Supplemental Budget 3. In order to assist Falk Ambulance with emergency medical response, the fire department has been operating city medic units since the COVID-19 pandemic. Due to this increased activity, actual expenditures are expected to exceed existing budget authority, and as a result, a supplemental budget is needed to maintain budget compliance in the Emergency Services Fund for fiscal year 2024. These increased expenditures are offset by an increase in program revenue. So a little bit more detail about the action. Additional revenue from city ambulance services is estimated to be just over $2 million. Unanticipated expenditures associated with the program include $45,000 for salaries and wages, approximately $1.3 million for bad debt write-offs, and $750,000 for transfers to other funds, for a total of $2,095,000 of additional budget appropriation for fiscal year 24. Bad debt write-off occurs when ambulance services are provided and the full cost charged is not able to be recovered from a patient or their insurance provider. Many health insurance plans, including both Medicare and Medicaid, set a maximum amount allowed, which is the amount the plan will pay for a service. Anything over that amount allowed that is billed is not reimbursable by the insurance and also cannot be billed to the patient, so it has to be written off. A little bit more about the transfer to other funds. This just creates budget authority for the general fund to be reimbursed for the cost of the employees who are running the city medic units. So in order to stay in budget compliance, staff recommends adoption of Resolution 2024-33.
Thank you. We have nobody signed up for our public comment on this item. Do we have questions for staff? I will close the public hearing. Councilor Stapleton, do you have a motion?
Yes, I move that City Council adopt Resolution number 2024-33, Fiscal Year Supplemental Budget 3, increasing resource and expenditure appropriation authority in the Emergency Services Fund.
I'll second that.
Motion by Stapleton, second by Nishioka. Councilor, to your motion.
I don't have much to add. Callie did a great job of explaining it all to us, and thank you for your time on that.
Further discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke absent. Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, we are now on to item 5, special orders of business, item 5A, and we have Rob Robanek. This is an amendment and restatement of an agreement between the City of Salem and Willamette University for use of Spec Keene Stadium, McCulloch Stadium, and Bush's Pasture Park.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Rob Rumnack, and I'm the city's park planning manager. This evening, I have a couple slides, an introductory presentation to introduce this item. Start rolling through here. So the issue in front of you tonight, its purpose is to update and amend a long-standing agreement the city has with Willamette University. The agreement outlines responsibilities for use and maintenance of the various facilities that are located in Bush's Pasture Park, as well in the city, the university's property, which is shown there on the right, outlined in white. So that's the property they own fee title to. The amendment also addresses public access and future improvements to their facilities. So those are the components of the amended agreement. Key terms of the agreement. The list here is integration. So we're consolidating several agreements that have been struck over a period of time, beginning in the 70s, bringing us to now. Those agreements are all dating back from the 70s and 80s, but all those components are being consolidated into this one agreement before you this evening. As I mentioned before, it does address the use of facilities. That would be the use of university facilities for both the city programs and for the school district's use, as well as a fee waiver for the city's program, which is the kids relay at McCulloch Stadium. And so that's why that McCulloch Stadium is now a component of the agreement, is because of this fee waiver aspect. It also addresses maintenance. The current agreement we have with the university requires the city actually to mow the baseball field, which we don't actively do, I'll admit that. But that's just a sign that the agreement needs to be updated to reflect the current reality of the situation. And so it clearly delineates the maintenance responsibilities between the two parties. A lot of discussion this evening already, but it does pave the way for some improvements to the baseball facilities, including synthetic turf, new field lighting, adjustments to entryways, field netting, all at the baseball stadium. Additionally, the university has agreed to maintain the windscreens on Bush's Pasture Park tennis courts. They'll put them up and then maintain them over time. The agreement continues to provide for public use of the university's facilities in exchange for the encroachment of their facilities onto park property. And it does include a termination clause, so there's an opportunity for either party to terminate the agreement on an annual basis. The proposed improvements, again, include accessibility improvements. They include new synthetic turf installation on the baseball field, new field lighting, adjusted entranceway, field netting, and new fencing. All those new improvements, the area of additional encroachment into the park is identified in that image in the pink shaded area, and the blue pink shaded area is the current encroachment that is allowed under the current agreement we have with the university.
Rob, could you just clarify, you're not talking about anything related to the football field where it's also kind of pink?
No, just to clarify, the pink shaded area here, as well as a very small area. The mouse can...
There's a little lag with that mouse.
Yeah. I'm real close to it there at the corner there. So there's those two small areas.
Yeah. Can you tell us, sorry to interrupt you with questions already. Can you tell us what's the square footage of the new area?
I don't have that tonight for you, but I'll tell you that the university's total property there is 11.5 acres to give you a sense of scale. So we're talking about several hundred square feet at most. We're not talking about a significant area.
Okay.
I have some images I'm going to show that might be helpful as well. So the largest pink area in my previous slide is the backside of their stadium, and it's pictured here. So you can see this is what the park property's condition is today. These are some renderings of what the university is proposing. Here you can see the net I mentioned, as well as the new fencing and the accessible walkway there on the backside of the stadium that they need to improve accessibility within their facilities.
And when you say accessibility, could you be a little more specific about that?
Yeah, so both sides of the stadium would ideally have ADA access that meets ADA standards, and currently they're able to accommodate that on one half of their stadium, but on that eastern portion they're not. There's no accessible route, paved walkway that gets individuals to where they need to go, and so that's what this is about. It's about connecting a suitable walkway, accessible route that, for example, someone in a wheelchair could use to access the other side of their facility. And there's discussion about adjusting entryways to the stadium. Currently, there is a gate on the fence that divides the university's facilities from the park on the south side. That exists today. It's opened on occasion, for example, for events like running events that begin at the stadiums and run through the park and then maybe conclude at the stadium. So they're used on special events. The proposal has that gate moving slightly to the east, but it's just so it's the same gate, it's just being relocated. And again, to add that flexibility with how the two partners program the facilities together. I don't believe there's an expectation that this fence would be open on a regular basis for every event. It just, when it makes sense, it would be opened. Here's just another view looking to the south. You see the other improvements. The light poles are shown in this concept. There's a grass berm that are proposed for spectator viewing in the outfield. Then I'm going to jump into some of the considerations staff has given this up to date. First, I want to talk about the park's classification. In the Salem's Park System Master Plan, we have a classification system where Bush's Pasture Park is identified as an urban park. This is sent to others may know this as a regional park. That's a general idea. And it's a park that we've identified as a place that's appropriate to draw in large groups of people, even regional groups of people, to enjoy large events or have big events or special things that would draw people there. And so that is what this classification is about, and that is what Bush's Pasture Park has been classified for some time. There's been discussion about the Cultural Landscape Management Plan for Deepwood Estates Gardens and Bush's Pasture Park. That plan, I just want to clarify, is largely a management plan. It really assists the city staff at administrative level with our day-to-day management of the park and its historic and culturally important resources. It also serves as the park's master plan because it identifies some capital improvements that we could potentially want to make over time. Because of that latter point, it has been approved by City Council, but I want to clarify, it is not a component of the comprehensive plan, the city's comprehensive plan, the main primary land use plan. It is not. It is basically a management tool for our use, and it addresses the administrative level of the park on a day-to-day basis. I mentioned the ADA compliance issue. A big component about this expanded encroachment is to provide that access on the back side between one side of the stadium to the other, where the university really needs some additional land to make that a possibility. There's been discussion about a deed restriction. There is a existing deed restriction on the property that it be used for public park use. Staff's view is that this use is a public park use. The facilities are going to be available to public use, and it is therefore compatible. We also recognize that there is potential for some significant economic impact from increased use of facilities, benefiting local businesses in town, restaurants, potentially hotels, from improving these facilities. I want to talk a little bit about the review by the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board that occurred earlier this month. They had 2 meetings on this topic over the past several months, I should say, and they've had a chance to ask a lot of questions to the various parties and get responses and have some really meaningful deliberations. They came up with the motion that's included in your packet. I won't read it here, but that came out of quite a bit of discussion. It was on, I believe, a 7-1 vote to support this motion. Yeah, that's correct. And they had just to sum up kind of what the discussion was, they saw a lot of positive aspects to this proposal, enough that they thought outweighed the negative impacts. They were pleased by the increased public use of the facilities, both to the potential for the city to use them more, as well as the school district's use of the facilities. They were concerned about parking impacts, and there was a lot of discussion about that, and you'll see that also reflected in their motion. There's also a lot of discussion about the environmental impacts of artificial turf, specifically microplastic and other pollutants that could be associated with those facilities. So that was a concern that was discussed at length at the board level. They also did suggest this concept of an annual review of the impacts from the expanded use, and that has been incorporated into the agreement that's before you tonight, but not the specific detail that was noted in one of the public comments earlier. And with that, tonight's action is to authorize the city manager to execute the proposed amendment and restatement of the agreement. And the rationale from staff is that it streamlines and clarifies the terms and conditions. It's efficient and cooperative use of our shared facilities, and there is community benefit. So we recommend approval. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate those, your presentation. Can you talk to me for a minute about the suggestion that was made about the annual review of pedestrian impact on the park? What do you think about that, about including that?
I think we can include that. I don't know how sophisticated we're discussing there. Are we counting pedestrians? Are we, how are we collecting data to support that, those decision making? But I think we can certainly include that as part of our annual review, that we'll discuss that. We will actually note, I'm sure staff would notice if there were like more social trails being developed or we saw more damage to park vegetation. We would definitely, as an observational level, we could bring up those issues. But again, I'm cautious that we won't have those like actual hard data to support that.
Right. But you'd be able to see physical impacts to the park because you'd be monitoring that.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So I guess I have a question quickly for our city attorney. Do we need to, if we wanted to include that, would we need to amend anything, or can that be, how do we get that included?
If you could, if you want, the council wants to include that, you should include that in your motion.
Thank you. Okay. Councilor Phillips.
Thank you. Just had to click off mute. I appreciate the presentation and the testimony that we heard tonight. I have one process question, and forgive me, is this considered a legislative action from City Council, or is this under land use?
Councilor Phillips, Dan Atchison, City Attorney, this is a legislative action by the city.
Okay. And then I appreciate the work that the Parks Advisory Board did. I'm pretty supportive of that. I'm glad to hear that their discussion was thorough and include many of the things that I was thinking about. I, in my individual capacity, feel pretty strongly about fireworks, and I have some concerns about fireworks in this location. Is there anything that could limit, or is that already kind of built into what we'll be considering tonight?
The use of fireworks on city property has not been discussed in our negotiation with the university. I'm not clear that there's an intent to use fireworks at their property. If they wish to use fireworks on the city's property, that of course would be subject to our approval. And I'm not certain that that would happen.
What if they wanted to use fireworks on their property, on the Willamette property?
I don't want to misspeak, so I'm going to be careful. I believe that there are reviews the city has in place that they would have to go through to. I'm maybe not the best staff person to address that. I don't think that that's just an open situation. I think there would be some reviews that would have to occur.
So I'm not prepared to make any motions on that specifically tonight, but I appreciate that we do have processes. I mean, just briefly, like I'm not cool with large, any real fireworks at this point, given that we live on the West Coast and the climate conditions we've had over the past several decades. But yeah, I appreciate that we do have some control over that.
Thank you. I would like to address your question, Councilor Phillips, about fireworks. I would like, because that's a question I've had too, but I would like to call up Mr. Passage from Willamette to talk about I want to make sure that everybody is on the same page with that, because I certainly don't want to see fireworks in that area. So I would like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, there's no plans. Fireworks in Bush Park does not make sense to me. I don't know if that can be something that can be added to the agreement. It says the use of fireworks in any property there is prohibited. That's totally fine. There's not a.
Okay.
I don't know how we would use them on our current property and not have them impact the surrounding area.
Right,
So
exactly.
It's always concerned.
I would be more comfortable having that in the agreement.
I think that would be. I think folks at the university would support that.
Great, thanks.
So.
And then just to follow up, I mean, I think that if we were able to incorporate the volunteers' recommendations, and I think it was like E6 and the fireworks, I would have probably then no reservations in supporting this. But
Thank you, Councilor. Are there other questions for Mr. Romanek? Councilor Varney.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. Thank you for showing the artist drawings of what the fence will look like. I mean, there's a big difference between the fence and the back of the stadium, the way it looks now. I know when I was out there touring it, there was, evidence of graffiti and some fires, et cetera. And so it's nice to see that barrier. How tall will that fence be? I was just curious. I couldn't really tell.
I believe it will be under 8 feet. I'm seeing Rob Pasture shaking his head there. Yeah.
Okay. Another question I had, and maybe, are we going to be asking Rob questions as well? I mean, Rob Passage?
You certainly can.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a legislative affair. We can ask whoever we want, whatever we want.
Okay. Because I do have some questions about public use.
Would you like him to come up to the?
Sure.
Great.
That would
Mr.
be
Passage,
great.
could you come back up?
It definitely gets confused because you also can't say tall Rob. That doesn't work when you're trying to
Two Robs.
So,
Well, I understand that.
yeah. So,
Okay. Thank you for coming down here.
Yeah.
What has the history been of public use previously? I'm just curious.
yeah, I mean, the history of, so I've been at Willamette since 2012. And when I arrived, I was the athletic facilities and operations manager. So my job was to basically manage our facilities and both the users by the university and then anyone that wanted to rent our facilities and make those available. And so anytime someone would want to use our space, they would contact me and we would figure out, was it possible, what was going to happen, what they needed, and try to make that happen whenever possible. So.
Okay. Do you
Yeah.
anticipate changes to the rental fees for use
for
of
just,
fields
so
or
yes.
whatever?
I mean, so for right now, again, we have an agreement, a draft agreement with Salem Kaiser Schools. So there'll be no rental fee for Salem Kaiser Schools. I know we've had conversations with other local organizations about summer use during the day at no cost. We haven't fully, I think we mentioned it with other folks, we haven't fully fleshed out what charges would be for groups like Little League Baseball, other softball groups that may want to use the space. But right now, we've had several conversations and one agreement with Salem Kaiser Schools about no rental. In addition to the what's in the agreement about the Country Kids relays as well.
Okay. I really appreciate that because one of my concerns was with the increased availability for youth sports. If there's quite a cost there for nonprofits, Little League, Boys and Girls Club, whomever, that could make it prohibitive.
Right.
So I'm glad you're involved in some of those conversations because we really want to encourage public use when it's available. When they rent a place, can they just rent the field and not all the rest of the stadium part of it? I was just curious.
It depends on the use. I mean, a lot of times depending on the use and the size of the group. And so right now, if a team wants to rent the baseball field, if they just want to practice and they just want to use the field, they just use the field. Obviously, if they're going to have a game, they're going to want to have the stand. So there's no difference. The price is the price, regardless of the size. The only thing changes if it is a game. There's going to be, at this point, we may need extra parking monitors. We may need extra staff, depending on the size of the event. But yeah, you can kind of use the different parts, whatever works. So same with football, same with our soccer field. It just depends on what they're using. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
One thing that wasn't mentioned, because it's kind of out of the side of this, but the turf on the softball field.
Yep.
That's kind of included as a project, but it doesn't have to deal with
it. Doesn't have to do with the city. It's not part of this agreement, right? Our softball field is located over behind the train station, and we will make the same. We are planning to make the same improvements to that space as the baseball stadium, but it's not under the same level of scrutiny, so one would say. So,
sure.
But it does double. It doubles the use. It doubles the use. I know one of the things we had talked about was putting both fields on one spot, but then there's changes, and it basically cuts in half the use that folks would have of those spaces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Questions? Yep. Thanks.
Can you stay?
Do you want me to stay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's next? Councilor
Can I?
Stapleton.
Okay, great. So we also heard from somebody talking about some perimeter fencing to help kind of direct foot traffic before and after games. I'm guessing that your architect is thinking about pedestrian traffic flows coming and going, where parking is located. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the considerations that was given?
Yes. This is where I wish I had drawings, sorry. And so I will try my best. Oh, hey, look at that. So currently right now we have two main entrances to our stadium. One that I think everyone knows off the Mission Street parking lot. That's the main entrance for the majority of our contests, especially football games, track meets, even baseball games. That's our main entrance. We do have a entrance/exit that's at the south end, kind of beyond where you're looking there, on the back side of the press box for baseball. That we don't use other than we use at baseball games because there's access. We need to, foul balls go into the park, we need to get there. People do come into the stadium from that side. And then anytime we run a cross-country meet in the park, we use that space. In addition, Awesome 3000 will run in and out of that gate. And so we've had a lot of different ideas about access and traffic flow and different things. What we've settled on is to just have our existing space, encourage the majority of folks to do what we've done is come in through the north side, but relocating that south gate so it's not currently where it is, a little bit. Can I?
Yep.
Can't do both. You're going to see on that drawing, I use my coach's voice. You're going to see on the drawing, about halfway on the back side there, there's a little path. There's going to be a gate there. And the hope is, as we talk with folks, that if people do come and go along that path or exit at that space, that they're going to exit not into Camas that's right behind the stadium where the current gate is, not into the new Oak Grove that's a little bit further, I think that Maureen had talked about in terms of the areas of concern. And originally in our conversation, we had actually had in our design, we had an entrance at the northeast side near the tennis courts, and quickly kind of pulled back from that because what we realized is encouraging people to come that direction could damage those spaces that are to the northeast of the field. So
Thank you. Was there, this is a nerdy question. I recognize you have a main entrance, and I'm guessing that you have used architectural design to make it look like a main entrance, and that this other entrance is on the opposite side. Maybe it looks a little bit smaller and cramped and maybe is not so inviting or encouraging for folks to use that. I'm guessing that has been incorporated into the design as well.
Yeah, and you'll see, well, it might be another, if you go back to one of that one. That one right there. Yeah. That's going to match some existing fence that we have, not the entire perimeter, but some existing fence we have at the front and some existing fence within the facility itself. It's just going to be a gate. There'll just be a gate there that we can open. Most of the time it's going to be closed, but it'll be a gate that we can open to allow folks to come and go during those games. And again, to come and go through other events that we have that utilize the park, like cross country and whatnot.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to voice this here and now with you that, one of the spectacular things about Bush's Pasture Park is the Camas. And the number one thing that will kill that is people walking on it. So I know that is going to be something that the city as a whole will want to preserve, and I know you do as well. And so that's going to be something that's really important as we move forward. And I think those annual reviews and including some pedestrian traffic review is also going to be really critical to that. And I know that just from our interactions with the group, that you're going to take that into consideration. And I'm putting that out on public record, right? That we really honor that sacredness of the park in that way. So thank you for your time in answering those questions for me.
Thank you.
Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you. Rob, thank you for staying. I have a couple questions. So there was some discussion there's been a lot of discussion about parking. And And I know that the amendments that SCRAB recommended is utilizing Willamette University parking and seeing if you could have shuttle service. And granted, some people say that not everyone will do that. They'll try to find parking. There was also mention of trying to preserve some parking for the regular park users. Has there been any discussion on how you might be able to manage leaving some parking and direct people more to the university and shuttle them? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I can. I think, there hasn't been anything definitive. One of the things that I've done since that SPRAB meeting is go to the park at night. I'm not usually there in the evening. And I've driven, and today I walked, which is a mistake, because I showed up here really sweaty. But I've driven through because between 5:15 and 6:45 at different nights. My wife even did it one night because I couldn't be there. Just to get a sense of where people are parking, what's happening. Because I want to know. I want to understand what's happening. I will say the majority of the people at that time are starting to kind of, at least on the Mission side, seem to be parking down in the Oak, kind of on the gravel path down at that end. There haven't been, when I walked here today at 5:15, there were 26 cars in the Mission Street lot. I would agree, and I don't remember who brought it up. I think it was one of the other public comments. There is a lot more parking, and people parked on the south side of the park. And so I'm open to a conversation to try to figure out how do we preserve those spaces. I've seen the groups, I've seen the parties, I've seen, so I understand that it happens. I will say the Mission Street side, at least for the past 10 days, has been really quiet. And so I'm open to those conversations. We're actively trying to look and see where the uses are. And I think it's something we need to continue to investigate. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm happy to have that year review, and then I can catch things when Rob's supposed to be mowing the grass at the field, and they're not doing that. But I want to continue to look and see how we can be better.
So with a follow-up question, there was also mention of putting fencing to direct people towards Mission Street. I know that there's a lot of citizens that have emailed me that live in the area and are wanting to have baseball there and wanting to attend games, and their intention would be to walk because they're probably just south. And so I'm thinking, well, we hate to make them have to walk north and then all the way around if there was perimeter fencing. But at the same time, the concept of some perimeter fencing to protect the campus or to keep people on the pathway might be something that could be considered. And I don't know if anybody's talked about that. Tonight made me think about it.
No, and I appreciate that. I think that's why, what we are trying to do is maintain the entrances and the gates that we have in the facility, and relocate that south gate to a spot where we believe, and again, in talking with folks, have the least impact. The other thing I think that also does is allow us to control people if we're worried about trash. I think it allows us to control people as they enter. They're hopefully not bringing trash into the facility, but as they leave, make sure that they're not taking things out with them and control that. So.
That brings them up another point, potentially having signs right near the garbage and near the gate saying, throw away it now, there's no other place, so that you can keep it inside the gates. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Other questions? Councilor Varney.
Me again. Okay, this one for Rob. I was just kind of curious, are there any concerns about people, so many people being in the park after it closes, the rest of the park?
Speaking from staff's perspective, I'm not really sure there are. I think the concept that people would disperse really quickly. I don't think they're going to spend a significant amount of time. They're just going to use the park paths to leave the facility and move on. So no, it's not a particular concern from our perspective.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Okay, I would like to take a 5-minute break. Media, are we ready? There we go. All right, I'll call us back to order, and I will go to, if assuming there's no more discussion, I will go to Councilor Nishioka for a motion.
Thank you. Be patient with me while I amend this motion. I move to authorize the city manager to execute the proposed amendment and restatement of the agreement for use of John Lewis Field, McCulloch Stadium, and Bush Pasture Park with the following additions. To modify E6 stating the parties shall conduct an annual review of impacts on the park and surrounding communities, including but not limited to parking, noise, pedestrian traffic, and lighting impacts. And prohibit firework displays at McCulloch Stadium and John Lewis Field.
I'll second.
Motion by Nishioka, second by Stapleton. Councilor, to your motion.
I think we have heard from the community, those that testified today. I think they brought us some excellent recommendations that we are adding to this. I think this is a project that is worth at least trying, and on those annual reviews, we can see if there's impacts that are affecting the park and make changes at that time and see how it goes. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Councilor Barney.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilor Nishioka, for your comments. I agree with you. As we've gone through this process over the last, months, the agreement has continued to improve and reflect the needs, more and more the needs of the community to support, I guess, both sides on this. I really appreciate the fact that this will provide the wheelchair access, because I feel the ADA access is really, really crucial for the other side of the stadium. I appreciate the incorporation of the SPRAB recommendations. I think they came up with some very, very good suggestion in their experience with parks, being the Parks Board, and their approval says a lot to me. And they've had really good discussions. I appreciate the environmental protections, both with the monitoring and also looking at the installation of turf, almost eliminating the irrigation, which is having really negative impacts on the Oak Grove on the southeast portion of the park. And I appreciate that Rob Passage was out checking out the parking lots and providing that input. So I just wanted to say thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there further discussion? Councilor Phillips.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hoy, and thank you to my colleagues, especially the maker of the motion, Councilor Nishioka. I think that I have not had the bandwidth recently to follow this quite as closely as I would have liked. But every single time I check in, real progress has been made. This is like kind of cool to see an advisory board, the Parks Advisory Board, really functioning how I think we would all like them to be functioning. The recommendations that they've made, the discussions that they've had, and it's not without controversy. I think it was a 7-1 vote, which is a clear direction, but there are still multiple perspectives to be had. But it seems like a common sense approach that's designed to bring us into the future, update an agreement. And we're talking about a relatively small square footage of, amending, easements and actual right-of-way that I think does have a probability of making the community better. So, at this point, by codifying, no fireworks, which I think it sounds like there's broad support for that, as well as, monitoring not just the car traffic and lights and so forth, but the pedestrian, I'm in support of this. And I think that by having that review process, we've got some tools to make adjustments moving forward.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there further discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke absent. Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. Excuse me. Aye. Motion passes. All right. Shame on you. Shame on you for being rude. Thank you. All right. We're on to item 3.2D. Councilor Hoy. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped 5B. Apologies. I skipped 5B.
Okay.
Stand by, Councilor Hoy. 5B. Councilor Nishioka.
I move to direct the Bond Oversight Steering Committee to consider recommending the city use $500,000 in affordable housing bond funds to support the next phases of the United Way of Mid-Willamette Valley's Cottages United Affordable Housing Project located on Market Street Northeast near Swegle, is it Swegle?
Swegle.
Swegle Elementary.
Second.
Motion by Nishioka, second by Gwen. Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. In 2021, a step was made to provide affordable housing for low-income seniors when the city council voted at that time to sell the city-owned property to the nonprofit United Way for a planned tiny home project. The initiative aims to offer affordable rent to seniors in need, and Phase 1 of the Cottage Clusters project reached a milestone with ribbon-cutting ceremony on May 30th, 2024. I felt that after that ribbon-cutting ceremony, I was so impressed with the project and the fact that they had over 150 applicants so quickly and for 10 houses. I recognize there truly is a need for seniors on the edge. And so I really feel that we should consider using some of the bond funds to help support Phase 2 for them. And so I brought this motion forward. Initially, I was thinking I would be able to bring the motion forward to ask for those funds and get council approval, but the proper way is to go through the steering committee for those funds, and so this motion is to request that to happen.
Thank you, Councilor. I would just say that, you know, having been involved in this project from the beginning back, I don't know how many years it's been a really great project, and this is my neighborhood, and I can tell you it's been an amazing addition to the neighborhood, having these new residents there, having this new kind of tiny home cluster in our neighborhood has been awesome, and I'm really happy to see it going forward. I see Rhonda Wolf is here from United Way. Thank you for all your great work on that, Rhonda. This has been an amazing project, and I look forward to seeing it through to expansion. So thank you for bringing the motion, Councilor. Further discussion, Councilor Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too just want to thank Councilor Nishioka for bringing this forward. And it does seem like a pretty exciting concept. I'm anxious to, in a good way, to watch it all unfold and how the community, the tiny home community folks interact and integrate with the school and the surrounding neighborhood. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion? All right, will the recorder please call the roll?
Councillor Phillips.
Aye.
Councillor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councillor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councillor Hoy.
Aye.
Councillor Nordyke absent. Councillor Varney.
Aye.
Councillor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councillor Nishioka.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, Councilor Hoy, now we're on to 3.2D.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's see. I move to direct staff to return to council on a quarterly basis to report by department publicly an update on the general fund budget versus actuals. Further, that this report be brought to council within 45 days following completion of the most recent quarter, presenting year-to-date budget to actual information.
I'll second.
Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you. Budgets can be fluid. Rather than just speaking about the budget once a year during that usual budget committee season, I'd like to keep it more top of mind for us. and for the citizens of Salem. By taking a medium dive once a quarter into where we're at in the budget, I think this will create a more informative and transparent process rather than just looking at it publicly once a year.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there further discussion? Councillor Gwynn.
So I'm just curious, does this align with sort of conversations we had during the budget meeting process? And is that what this motion would look like? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hearing it for the first time just like you are, so I don't know. Maybe Councillor Hoy would like to answer that.
Thanks. It is a direct result of that. I know it's been said by a few folks, request made, and nothing's been done to actually move it forward. So I felt after the last meeting that it would be important to make an actual motion so we could actually make some progress in this regard.
Thank you, Councillor. And I need to interrupt for 1 second. Could staff let Councillor Gonzalez back in the virtual meeting? He was kicked out and just sent me a text saying he's out and would like to come back in. Apologies for that. Okay, Councillor Phillips.
Actually make some
yeah,
progress
I
in
just,
this regard.
because it's a new motion and I don't have it written out, did this, is the intent or was the language, and I just missed it, to include the quarterly with the resolution number 2024-31 to adopt the 2025 budget?
No, that language wasn't in this motion, so we'll have to do another motion to do that.
Okay.
Further discussion? Councillor Varney.
I didn't write down the time limits and numbers, but I was curious, will this be something that, are the time limits reasonable for staff to be able to do this?
I would have to chat with Josh about that for the specifics. And again, I didn't record the motion either in writing, so it's hard to say specifically. What I have been talking to councilors about is really looking at the upcoming year as pretty much continuously being engaged in our budget process, calling it a Budget 365, looking at potentially convening the Budget Committee in October and November to consider where we are from a budget perspective and to start considering what the reductions are going to need to be in order to meet the realistic expectations about our budget for 2026. Of course, in January, we already have scheduled Josh and the team coming in with the financial report, our financial forecast. So of course, we're already doing that work then. And then, in March, we come in and we start the budget process, or, early in April. So we really are engaged in the budget almost on a continuous basis as it is. So, adding these additional dates may or may not be beneficial, certainly is consistent with the way I want to approach this year's budget in particular. Given the amount of uncertainty we have, it's going to require us to engage in our budget in a different way than we have in the past. And for me, that means starting in October, when we have a clear sense and feedback regarding the revenue task force work, probably going out to the community with some sort of additional survey regarding that work. So we'll have that feedback. We'll be able to go to the budget committee and to council and start really understanding where we're going from a revenue perspective, but also really understanding and discussing and making decisions about what our priorities are and what the expectations are for the 2026 budget, so that when Josh prepares the financial forecast for the 2026 budget, he has a better understanding of where we are and where we're going in 2026. So that's the way I envision us going forward over the course of the next year. How exactly this motion fits into that, I think it can be accommodated in that pretty well.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Keith. And I think that's sort of what I was thinking as you were speaking, because as you're thinking out loud, I sort of see this motion as codifying a little bit more what it is we're trying to do as a city. I mean, me personally, in the business that I have, when times are tough, I have to change the way I look at my budget. So I say during the next few years, we're going to really have to sort of nail down something a little more, instead of just this yearly process, which there was a lot of confusion because the task force is running, but it's really confusing, for, I would say, the regular person. And then even us as a council, knowing exactly where to jump in, so I think having council, which is we're the ultimate deciders, be the ones controlling this or being there, having a little more authority on a regular basis, I think is valuable. And also to me, I just see it as a respect to our incoming mayor. If she's seeing a vision, if this is her vision of wanting, her way of wanting to keep tabs on that, then I support that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion? Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. I'm wondering if Councilor Hoy can explain a little bit more in what her goals were. Do you expect reports on certain months, or just checking in at times of asking? I'm not sure what your motion was really trying to say.
Well, we've pretty much all of us have been in the meetings where budget committee members have asked for just this kind of thing. And it's not, I asked the city manager at the last meeting if anything has been done in this regard, and the answer was no. So I want to make sure that that's happening. So I'm bringing it forth publicly to make sure that we're gonna be able to have a look at how we're doing throughout the year, rather than in one fell swoop when the budget book hits the desk. So I guess I think it'd just be healthier to cut the year into quarters and digest the general fund budget publicly and gradually. Given the fact that there's been a lot of discussion around the need for revenue, and this kind of effort would, I think, work to create a healthier financial communication and would help to make progress in terms of trust with the community. So that.
Could, Councilor Hoy, could you reread the motion?
Sure, thank you. I move to direct city staff to return to council on a quarterly basis to report by department publicly an update on the general fund budget versus actuals. Further, that this report be brought to council within 45 days following completion of the most recent quarter presented year-to-date budget to actual information. And if I may comment, just, Mr. Mayor, if I may make a comment
Sure.
on that.
Yeah.
The 45-day period is something that, with communication with the city attorney, Dan Atchison, and his communications with Josh was that 45 days was reasonable based on when city council meetings actually fall. My original request was for within a month, and sometimes that's just not possible. So 45 days seems to be able to include council meeting dates.
Councilor Phillips.
Yeah, I mean, I think that potentially in spirit, like, I'm fine with having staff and having codification for them to provide quarterly updates within, 45 days. There's some of the wording, I don't know if it has like an impactful meeting, the technical side of it, but like the spirit of like, regular quarterly updates, I think, as the city manager said, especially moving forward into our uncertain future, I'm probably okay with that. I think that I got the gist that that's what a lot of the budget committee members wanted. And I get a sense that it's probably, in spirit, feasible for staff to do. I would prefer to be like adopting the budget, which is what this was supposed to be on the consent agenda. So like, I'm really tempted to make like an amendment to say that, we just adopt resolution 2024-31, which is the 25 budget, with something like this language in it. But I can't sign off on all the technicalities of it because I haven't had a chance to review. But in spirit, quarterly is fine, and within 45 days, it sounds like staff can do that.
Thank you, Councilor. I have a question for staff, and I'm wondering, the language about by department was a little bit, I wasn't sure about that, because that's not typically how we do our budget. So could you talk a little bit about that, Josh? Does that work? Do you think that that's feasible?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. Josh Eggleston, Chief Financial Officer. I see this motion really doing three things. So currently the quarterly reports go to the Budget Committee, not the City Council, so that switches it.
When you say Budget Committee, do you mean Finance Committee?
No, they go to the Budget Committee. So in January and then in April, you get the quarterly reports. They are already by department.
Okay.
So that's not a change at all. Going to City Council allows for more timely delivery throughout the year. The Budget Committee really meets in that January, April, May timeline. So it's not that the data wasn't available, it was that the Budget Committee wasn't meeting during those times. So that's why they were delivered in January, April, May. The one note I would make is that the fourth quarter, so the fiscal year end, we're not going to close that for a while. So when you get that report within 45 days, it'll be preliminary and we'll have to come back with a final, just because we still get money from the state and we pay bills for a couple months after the fiscal year closes. But other than that, it really doesn't change much practice for us, and I don't have a problem with it.
Thanks, Josh. Further discussion? Mr. City Manager.
Yes, I'm just wondering what the role of the Finance Committee would be in this.
Yeah, appreciate the question. We started that discussion at the Finance Committee last week. We're planning to go back to the Finance Committee in July to look at different components of reporting. This is a very specific request with the general fund by department. It's not a problem. There might be more information that the Finance Committee and the City Council could be interested in, and that's what we'll discuss with the Finance Committee. Maybe not as centered on the general fund and looking at the whole city, all the different funds.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if council would be interested in having the Finance Committee review what the report would look like and help shape the report so that we have a better understanding of what they're looking for, and then come forward with the report following their review, so they can help us outline, specifically what are they interested in, and help develop a template for what these reports are going to look like. And then once we've done that, then we can have the regularly quarterly reports, start, that are consistent with that methodology, whatever the Finance Committee comes up to.
So I like the idea of the Finance Committee leading this charge, because that's really what we asked them to do. I'm wondering, are you suggesting that we delay the motion or go forward with the motion but refer it to them?
My suggestion is that we go forward with the motion and refer it to them so that they can help us develop the methodology and the clarity that the council needs to be informed about our budget situation and to make decisions going forward.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion, Councilor Nishioka.
Yes, I have another question, and I'm not sure if this would be to City Manager Josh or Councilor Hoy. Was the intent to, so we have the Finance Committee work on this and it comes to the council, was the intent to also bring in Budget Committee quarterly to hear it, or just council? Yeah.
Councilor Hoy, can you, since it's talking about intent, I think you're the best person to respond to that.
Yeah, I have a question about that, because the Budget Committee's not meeting, so I didn't know if they would be a part of that or not. I'm most interested in the public perception of doing things openly, so that folks can see that we're making efforts to stay on track in terms of our budget. And I'm not sure if they can be included if they're not meeting.
Thank you.
Councilor Stapleton.
Thank you. I'd like to make an amendment to the motion that we ask staff to send this to the Finance Committee to finalize what this would look like for council, and to also consider mailing the report to, emailing the report to all Budget Committee members as well.
I'll second that.
Councilor, to your amendment.
Thank you. Yeah, and I want to speak to the motion, not only my amendment, but to the original motion as well. I think, as many folks have said, this is something that we have all been talking about for a while. In my monthly meetings with the city manager, he has shared openly with me that his stance on how we move forward with our budget is very much so in line with Councilor Hoy's motion. And so I think that we are all tracking in the same direction, and that feels really good as a council and as we are communicating with staff. So that's great. My one point of, I guess, concern or frustration is that just like Councilor Phillips has stated, when we pulled item 3.2D, I thought we were heading in a certain direction, and now we're on a different path. And so it's always very hard for counselors to receive new information on the fly. And so it's always really respectful to our colleagues to try and get our motions in on time so that they can be included in the agenda. So I would love to have that be more of a consideration moving forward. But as it's stated with my amendments, I think that I'm in favor of moving forward. I think the Finance Committee is a perfect spot to kind of help sort out all of this with the staff that's going to be impacted the most. And I think trying to find ways to include the Budget Committee throughout the year, I think they would appreciate that, and I think that it would make our meetings when we do come together in the spring more productive. And I think more communication is always better, and I think that this really helps us really codify what the city manager is hoping to do with this year's budget, and moving forward, I think that's going to be really important, especially in the next couple of years.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Gonzalez.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm supportive of Councilor Stapleton's idea about the Finance Committee. I mean, just so you know, I'm the chair of the Finance Committee, so this information will be in good hands, and those meetings are well run, and a lot of the finance staff are there. So it'll give us a little more time to get back to the appropriate information.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke is absent. Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, now to the main motion, the amended motion. Is there further discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke absent. Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, Councilor Stapleton.
I move that the City Council adopt resolution number 2024-31 to adopt the fiscal year 2025 City of Salem budget.
Second.
Motion by Stapleton, second by Varney. Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you. I don't have a ton to say here, other than I really appreciate staff's work on this. I talked about this in my comments at the beginning of the meeting. Really an honor to serve with you all here and to get to be in the presence of all of these folks who have poured their heart and soul into this budget and into the daily functioning of the city. And this is the best compromise that we could come to with really great work from the Budget Committee as well, which I want to thank them as well for their time and energy. I was at a solstice party in my neighborhood this last weekend, and somebody asked me, oh, did you get your life back? And it was a spouse of one of the budget committee members. And at first I was like, what are you talking about? And then I realized, oh, they're not quite so used to so many meetings as we counselors are. So really, they do put their heart and soul into this, and to have all those new members come in and just jump right into a really challenging time for our city. And so to see their dedication is really moving, and thank you, staff, and ready to move forward.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke absent. Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, on to information reports. Item 6A, do we have anything on that one? 6B? I was looking right at you. Councilor Gwynn.
I didn't want to miss it because I was so excited. Tree variances, we're going to see these coming forward as we try to expand on some of our cottage clusters. And I'm so excited. Pardon? Affordable housing. Yeah, well, and not just affordable housing, to meet our housing goals, we're going to have to make compromises. And this plan, there's a ginormous sequoia on this property, and this cottage cluster will surround it. And I just think it's so exciting, and how the developer and architect just thought outside the box to make that happen. I just think it's super exciting. So that's all.
Thank you, Councilor. Anything else on item 6B? 6C, Councilor Stapleton.
I just wanted to highlight that we are making progress on the 20 is plenty and our Vision Zero, which we're past, Lordy, I think it's been a year. I'm not sure, though. Brian's nodding. And we've really done a lot of work. We've gotten money to pay for this project. We are creatively looking at ways to implement it. And so I'm really excited about the progress and that things really should start moving to a space where maybe we're going to start seeing more action on this in the coming months. So thank you to staff for sticking with it and going after the grant from the federal government. And I'm really excited by the progress.
Thank you, Councilor. I just want to say I very much appreciate item 6C. I think that having this compilation of all the motions is extremely helpful. And plus, not only does it help to track and help for accountability and transparency, but it also just showcases all of the work that we've been doing. And I think it's great. And so thank you, Mr. City Manager, for shepherding that through the staff process. I really appreciate it. Anything on item 6D? All right, we are then on to first readings.
Ordinance Bill Number 724, an ordinance vacating a public sanitary sewer easement located near Orchard Heights Road Northwest and Linwood Street Northwest.
Councilor Varney, do you have a motion?
I move that we conduct the first reading of Ordinance Bill Number 7-24, which vacates a public sanitary sewer easement located near Orchard Heights Road Northwest and Linwood Street Northwest, and advance Ordinance Bill 7-24 to second reading for enactment.
Second.
Motion by Varney, second by Stapleton. Councilor, do you have anything for your motion?
No, we discussed it last meeting.
Fair enough. Any further discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Nordyke is absent. Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. On to second readings, item 7.2A.
Ordinance Bill Number 624, an ordinance relating to renaming of the Salem Municipal Airport, amending SRC Sections 9.001, .005, .215, .305, and 602.005. Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke absent. Mayor Hoy.
Aye, motion passes. All right, we have nobody signed up under item number 8 for public comment, so therefore we are adjourned.